And so when I think about AI and automation in a short-term and long-term perspective, then similar to how I described our own thoughts on the medical coding space, I think long-term it's not that scary, but just because just kind of like new processes are going to develop in terms of how we train people in kind of a world with better technology solutions. You think about like you and I took classes on like how to use Excel and how to like become faster at typing on a keyboard. And I think that students in middle school, high school, 20 years from now are just going to be taking classes on, hey, how to like most effectively use Chat GPT or whatever like that is, or just like naturally as they're going through their educational process. Like we used Google all the time just in helping to find information. So I think it's just going to develop to where people gain these skills naturally and grow into an environment where they gravitate towards positions and opportunities that, again, naturally develop in this new space. The short term is less rosy, right? Because, you know, there are other industries where maybe like dissimilar from medical coding, where I think there's kind of a natural phased process. It's much more like, hey, machines automation are going to do this and the people are just kind of screwed. And that's where I think that, you know, I lean towards innovation is good, and it sucks when people lose jobs, but I think the role is more so how do you develop opportunities for people in the short term so that there are options like outside. I forget what the example was. I think it was like a dock workers union in Maryland or something was essentially like boycotting because they were starting to use like automated routes of kind of like moving. So I'm, you know, I don't have perfect information on this obviously, but it was one that very much like people were trying to exercise control just to keep jobs over automation. And for that, it's just kind of like, that doesn't really make sense. Like we should try to help the individuals versus like stifling innovation because it's good for a few individuals. Now, again, that's something that's much easier said than done because there's like giving people opportunities is one of the more difficult things, right? Where you think about like, you know, you and I were in a fortunate position of being able to go to Michigan, explore a lot of opportunities, but even you, you know, hear about some, you know, just like people who came from like less fortunate positions where it's like, hey, the environment I'm in, the opportunities maybe are like this factory within like rural Ohio, right? Or like, you know, we're in Michigan. So our parents grew up in an environment where like manufacturing jobs for the automotive companies are just like what the available and easily accessible opportunities are. And so when you take something like that away from a community, it's really difficult. So I don't have the perfect example of like, how do we help create new opportunities? I think it's got to be in some manner more short-term training programs, because right now everything's really geared towards like 4-year college degrees and then master's degrees to qualify yourself for certain programs. So if there's ways you can do like a 3-month, 6-month process to get a level of expertise required to get into a certain area, I think that would de-risk, you know, it just gives people more opportunities, right? So that's kind of how I think about like AI factoring into the workforce.